bribery now is the law of the land. Corporations can do what once was banned. The Supremes have set a precedent. Now Walmart can be president.
Coalition of groups and individuals coming together from across the country that are calling for a constitutional amendment to correct the court-created illegitimate idea that a corporation has inherent constitutional rights. You know, it didn't start with Citizens United, but the recent outrageous Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission really brought to a head just what has happened to the Democratic Republic. However, the idea that concentrated capital that has been gotten privileges under law because of the creation of the corporation statutes for limited liability, which is an incredible privilege to have that human beings like us don't have, to then endow them with constitutional rights flies in the face of both logic and the principles upon which this republic was founded. Individual human beings are endowed by their creator with certain inherent inalienable rights. Concentrated capital does not have constitutional rights. They have privileges that are subject to the political process. But constitutional rights are not subject to the political process. Whether I agree with you or disagree with you, if you're a human being, I acknowledge and must acknowledge your worth as a human being and your constitutional rights. So the concept of, and I want to really underscore in my closing moment, corporate personhood is merely a shorthand. The real issue is, do corporations have constitutional rights? And the answer clearly is no. This is something that we can actually agree on as Americans, and they're principles. It's not an issue. This is a constitutional principle. So I stand in support and request that you will join Flagstaff, Arizona, over 100 other communities across the country in what is a growing, peaceful movement to democratically take our country back. Thank you.
I'm here representing the Tucson chapter of Progressive Democrats of America. Reasonable people may disagree on the correctness of the Citizens United decision. George Will argued recently in the Arizona Daily Star that it was a correct decision. President Obama said in his State of the Union speech that the decision would, quote, open the floodgates for special interests to spend without limit in our elections. The Supreme Court has likewise been schizophrenic on this issue. After the Civil War, the court said for the first time that corporations, like people, have constitutional rights. The progressive era that followed saw the first major efforts to limit the impact of money in politics. Since then, the sides of the battle have remained roughly the same. One side favors rules to limit the influence of money. The other has supported a freer market, allowing people and corporations to contribute as they see fit. Citizens United marked the most recent cycle in this contest. Even in an illegal system like ours that protects free speech, the government has long been able to regulate speech in all kinds of ways. As legal scholar Jeffrey Toobin writes in the May 21st edition of the New Yorker about Citizens United, quote, the real question for Chief Justice Roberts was how much he wanted to help the Republican Party. Roberts' choice was a lot, close quote.
Wow.
It's not hard to see why this decision is so bad for our democracy. Corporate money increased over 300% in the 2010 midterm races. Poll after poll has shown that Americans oppose Citizens United by about 4 to 1. More than 75% of voters believe that corporations have more control over our political system than average citizens do. Polls also show that this issue inspires.
If you could wrap up.
I will. Polls also show that this issue inspires not just disapproval, but a desire for serious action. There's bipartisan support for amending the U.S. Constitution to affirm that corporations don't have the same rights as people. Tucson, you're the elected representatives of Tucson. You have an opportunity to make Tucson's voice heard in this regard.
And that's what I want to talk to you about here. Please vote for this resolution. It's important for the very continuation of our democracy. We can't have, under Citizens United, what we're doing is putting the presidency up for auction. What we need to do, this group, my friends here, we need to talk to candidates for Congress and candidates for the legislature and extract their promise to support this. That's what we have to do. I shouldn't be here at the city council. Say, we go and take it into the congressional candidates and we say, yes or no, will you endorse and support this? And the ones who do, we have to drum up support for them, help them in our campaigns. And the ones who don't, we have to occupy every event that they speak at. That's the way you beat it out of them, and it's not going to work this way, okay? So that's what we need to do. See what happened here, it's not that this is without harm. There's an election for Congress going on right now. The polls will close in a few minutes. Ron Barber and what's the other guy?
Jesse Kelly.
I don't know how they feel about this issue. And that's not excusable with this size of a group here, that nobody went and asked either one of those guys how they feel.
City Manager's communication number 248, dated June 12, was received into and made part of the record. Ms. Clerk, you are requested to read the memorial by title only.
A memorial relating to elections declaring support for an amendment to the United States Constitution to abolish corporate personhood and override the United States Supreme Court's decision in Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission.
What is the council's pleasure?
I understand the sentiment that this is a federal issue, but feel strongly, as I know several colleagues do, that Tucson has a proud and strong legacy of protecting clean elections. We adopted a system in the 1980s. We strengthened it in 2007 by requiring independent committees to disclose their donor information at the same time frame that any candidate or other financial information is revealed, so that there's transparency in terms of money flowing into elections. And last year we succeeded in partnership with the Arizona Advocacy Network in challenging the Arizona legislature's proposal to amend the Arizona Constitution in order to abolish the state's clean elections program. So this is all about Tucson. It is all about the values that we hold, and I appreciated how people helped to make it very clear this is not anti-corporations. This is pro-human rights, pro-constitution as it was intended, and really to make sure that constitutional rights protect the citizens and people of the United States and not legal constructs that would extend beyond that. We have to take it seriously because court challenges to our own election system could stem from this. We could hear people say we shouldn't have to disclose that we gave money to this campaign because we have constitutional rights to privacy or an unmitigated right to free speech as an individual would. And so we have to, I think, take a strong position. So I'm proud to move that we pass the memorial and hope we can find unanimous support.
Second.
Let's move to roll call.
Ms. Romero? Aye. Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Ms. Ulick? Aye. Mrs. Scott? Aye. Mr. Fimbres? Aye. Mr. Kozaczek?
Aye.
Mayor Wallstrop?
Aye.
Bribery, now is the law of the land. Corporations can do what once was banned. The Supremes have set a precedent. Now Walmart can be president. Business has rights and to their due, like corporations are persons true. Fair campaigning now is a thing of the past. Those with money own the elections at last. They'll buy all the TV ad time and run their swift vote as fine. They'll offer no proof, to hell with the truth. Corporations are persons too.
So, I'm part of a team who's spent the last 2 years dedicated to changing the lives of women and girls in Sierra Leone, West Africa. We're focused on a single issue, and we believe we've discovered a product that will change how 1.6 million women live, work, and are educated. One simple product that can improve health, increase productivity, enhance grades at school, and generate income. And you might be wondering what kind of super product we've discovered. Well, the answer might surprise you. It's a sanitary pad. Just a plain old sanitary pad. 2 years ago, I was traveling through Eastern West Africa on a research trip. And while I was there, I met a young girl called Brenda. Brenda was 15 years old and she was an orphan. And she was living in a tiny shack in Kampala with her grandmother and younger sister. A few days before I was due to leave Uganda, Brenda approached me and asked me if I could buy her a packet of sanitary pads. And I said no because I was leaving the country and I wasn't going to be there to keep buying them for her every month. I couldn't believe it when Brenda said to me, "Oh, but I spoke to my school nurse and she told me that if I don't have sanitary pads, I'll get sick and one day I might even get cancer." I just went, rubbish, you know, I'm sure whatever you're using now is fine, don't even worry about it. But it turns out I was wrong. I went back to my hostel and started doing some research, and I discovered that poor menstrual hygiene has a whole variety of health issues, and it's a huge issue for millions of women and girls across the developing world. Brenda wasn't the only one at risk. I wanted to find out more, so we decided to conduct some surveys of our own in Sierra Leone. We interviewed 500 women and girls across 5 different communities, and what we discovered shocked us. We heard stories from women who were using kitchen sponges to manage their period. They were using newspaper, tree bark, toilet paper, layers of underwear, and most commonly they use things like t-shirts or sarongs, which is usually old clothes, and they call these materials their pieces. The pieces were causing rashes and bruising on the inside of their thighs, and the women shared with us their shame about having to wash their pieces in public laundry areas and then dry them inside their home in front of their husbands. The pieces are hung in damp corners of the home where they don't quite dry fully, and they just become a breeding ground for bacteria. The girls we spoke to had an added problem. Every time they had their period, they were missing out on school. A lot of the girls had experiences where they'd stain the back of their school dress, and they didn't want to risk humiliation a second time. Some girls were missing out on up to 1 week of school every single month. Their grades were dropping and they were falling behind in class. So, in Sierra Leone, a packet of sanitary pads cost anywhere between $1.20 and $9. The women and girls we were speaking with, they earned less than $2 a day. So for the women out there, can you imagine spending a full day's wages on sanitary pads? We decided enough was enough. We were going to do something about it. So we created Launchpad, a social enterprise. Thank you. A social enterprise that will deliver affordable, biodegradable sanitary pads to women and girls in Sierra Leone, using a network of local female entrepreneurs and existing healthcare systems. Our sanitary pads are available for 70 cents per packet, which is up to 90% cheaper than other pads that are available on the market. We had to be really careful to source the product based on the needs of the women, the cultural taboos, and the environment which they were living in. So pretty early on, we decided against using reusable sanitary pads. They were still going to require washing in public areas and drying inside the home. We had to avoid reusable cups and tampons. 90% of the women and girls in Sierra Leone are circumcised, so these wouldn't be culturally acceptable. So that left us with just a plain old sanitary pad. But the communities we're working in don't have an established sanitation system. So we needed a biodegradable pad, and that's where we began. We sourced a biodegradable pad made from papyrus leaves. But then we encountered another problem. Out of the 500 women and girls that we'd spoken to, only 10 of them had heard of a sanitary pad, and only 1 woman had ever used one. So we needed to do a trial. And we started by running 5 health workshops in these communities to raise awareness about menstrual hygiene and sanitary pads. And secondly, we wanted to see if we would find just 30 women who'd be willing to pay 70 cents to purchase a packet of pads. And to tell you the truth, we were pretty worried about finding those first 30 women. But we didn't have to worry. We were blown away with the response. 147 women signed up to participate in the trial, and it was a complete success. 100% of the women said they preferred using pads over old cloth, and they told us that they want more pads. To reach 1.6 million women and girls in Sierra Leone, we're using a 2-pronged delivery method. So firstly, we're training local women to start their own sanitary pad business, and we called these women our Launchpad champions. And this is Mariatu Karoma, and she's one of our first and most successful Launchpad champions. She's received basic health and hygiene training, financial literacy, and marketing training. Mariatu is responsible for educating her community about good menstrual health. When she sells 100 packets of sanitary pads in a month, she'll earn herself $10, which will increase her monthly income by 25%. Secondly, we're partnering with established non-profit organisations and medical clinics and leveraging their existing networks so we can make sure that pads are available across the country. Our mission is that every woman and girl in Sierra Leone can access affordable, biodegradable sanitary products in the next 6 years. For us in the Western world, it's really easy to take a sanitary pad for granted. It's just a routine part of our lives. But for women and girls in Sierra Leone, it can give them back their quality of life. It can improve their health, it can increase self-esteem, it can generate income, and it can keep girls in school. Who knew that a sanitary pad had the power to change the world? Thank you.